Let's talk about what casting looks like from the other side of the table. When we don't get cast in something, our first instinct is to say, oh, I must have been terrible, or I wasn't good enough, or I messed up, so I didn't get it. But there's so much more to consider when someone is doing casting for a show than just what your talent is, your pocket of talent. And so I want to talk about what some of the other factors are that might influence your casting that have absolutely nothing to do with your talent. Hi, I'm Emery. I'm a musical theater director, actor, choreographer, educator, and the casting process is my favorite and my least favorite part of the process because I get to finally see a show start to come together, but I know I'm going to hurt some people's hearts, and I don't like that part. But I try to soften the blow by making sure folks know that it isn't always about them. Which sounds so funny because of course it's about them, they're the ones auditioning. These are some reasons why it might not be about how well you sang or how well you acted. And I'm talking in terms of like middle school and high school, community theaters. I'm not talking like regional Broadway, big time stuff. This is just your average getting into theater situations and definitely not film and TV. I'm talking about a process where the casting director is very likely the director and is the one going to be working with the cast. So one of my big ones that I watch for is preparedness. Your work ethic can show me a lot more about what it'll be like to work with you than your talent does. So if you show up late or are scrolling through your phone being like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna sing, I'll sing this one for you, I can tell you haven't prepared. If you don't know, if you were sent the sides ahead of time and don't know them or are ad-libbing everything, those are red flags to me because that tells me that you didn't care enough to put in the time for this audition process. You might not care enough to put in the time for the actual play. Now notice I did not say you messed up your lines in the audition or you didn't hit a note in your song. Those things you can't necessarily help. They happen. We're human. We're performers. It's the beauty of live theater. It's the loathing of live theater. Things go wrong. But your preparedness is something that's totally in the actor's control. And so I, as a casting director, can judge on that. You can show me how much you want to be involved in this project by being on time, having your sides memorized, knowing your song. It's a baseline. That is like the minimum expectation that you need to come in with. And this was a really big one when I taught high school. So if there's any of you high schoolers out there watching this and you've just joined theater class for the first time, show your teacher your professionalism. It will do so much better for you than being able to hit the high note, I promise. This one's not so much about your talent as your presence in the space. I, as a casting director, am looking for a team that I want to work with, people that I can trust to cast in a role that will bring it alive. I don't want to see two ends of the far spectrum. I don't want to work with someone who has zero confidence in themselves. That sounds harsh. I don't mean that. I've worked with a lot of folks that have zero confidence in themselves and seen them grow. That's part of the beauty of theater. What I mean is it's really hard to cast you if you come in and you're tense and you're small and you read your scene like this and you can't sing your song because people are watching you. Like, it's really tough to then trust that you're going to be able to step on a stage in front of 400 people and do that. So you might not be cast in, say, one of the bigger roles. If I wanted to help that person grow, I might put them in a small role to start and then expand as I got to know them better and as their comfortability with me shifted and adapted. Because I know auditions are terrifying, okay? I've done a whole slew of videos on auditions. You can check out any of them, they're in the description. But if you come in so small because you are so nervous about this thing, and it shows me that you care. I will say that. It shows me that you want it because you're nervous. But if you can't handle being just in front of me, how are you going to handle being in front of an audience? That worries me, and I have to take that into consideration. On the far end of that spectrum, if you come in an egotistical, I'm not wanting to work with you. You can be super talented, and that's great. And I might have to cast you because you might be the only one that can do something or things like that. But I don't want to, because who wants to be around that person that thinks they're the gift to theater? No, thank you. So confidence in your audition is important, but having the right level of confidence so that it's not cockiness, so that it's not terrified nerves. Come in, breathe, ground yourself. Your voice wavers because you're shaking. I understand that. I've seen it a million times. That's fine. This is about how well our personalities jive, and unfortunately, that is part of the process. I kind of want to like you to work with you in theater. So be confident, not egotistical, and that will help. Another thing I'm looking for in an audition from my casting side of the table is if you can take direction. I've also talked about this one before, so I'm just going to kind of glaze over it a little bit. But if you come in and do your scene, and I'm like, that was great, can you try this? And I give you a direction to try, and you do your scene the exact same way, that's a red flag for me as a casting director. I don't know if you're going to be able to take direction in the show. Are you going to be able to adapt what you've memorized? Or are you thinking that your choices are better and you don't want to hear my choices? That's the cocky part that I just talked about. When someone gives you a direction in an audition, play with it, take it. It might not be the right choice for your character, and that is okay. What they're seeing is if you will do it, not if it's the right choice. They're seeing if you will play, if you will engage, if you will try to grow and adapt. So as a director, that's what I'm looking for on my casting side of the table, that you are going to be able to be in a process with me, that this is going to be a joint working thing and not just you doing what you think is right without any kind of feedback or acknowledgement from me. So that's a big one. And then we've got some things that will affect your casting that have absolutely nothing to do with your talent. If you are coming into a pre-existing show that's already running, you need to fit the costumes. That's why sometimes there will be height parameters. You can't help it if you are 5'7" and you go to a casting and they only want folks that are 5'1" to 5'4" to fit in a very specific costume. That has nothing to do with your talent. And so to go home and feel rotten after that you didn't get it because you weren't good enough, when it had literally to do with your height, and that's it. And unfortunately, in this business, sometimes it's about looks. And I don't always mean like beautiful, not beautiful, whatever that spectrum is to folks. But if I cast 3 main characters, maybe I want them to look a little bit different from each other. Or maybe I need them to look like a mother-daughter situation. Casting is getting more and more flexible in these situations as we move forward, which is fantastic. We're trusting the audience to have an imagination and be able to cope with the fact that someone might have a Filipino mother and a white daughter. It's fine. But that doesn't mean that looks, height, that kind of thing can affect your casting, because it just is the way it is and will likely be for at least a little while more. This one's a little bit about your talent, but not in a way that you can control. It's literally, are you able to sing the notes? So if you are an alto and the role that's open is a soprano role, you might not be considered for that role. You might have the most beautiful alto voice ever, but if you can't hit that note, you are not the right person, the right fit there, therefore you won't be cast there. And you can feel defeated and be like, oh, I sang terribly. No, you didn't. You sang beautifully. It just wasn't high enough. And so you might not be the right vocal type that they are looking for. And that, yes, has to do with your talent, but not necessarily in a, you have to work on this and be more adaptable way. It's just in a, that's what you're working with way. It's almost the exact same as height, really. And then everyone's heard this horror story, and yes, we wish it didn't happen, but sometimes you can not get cast because you remind the director of someone. Maybe you look like their ex, or maybe you look like someone they don't like or had a fight with. Obviously, we don't want to be like that and like this pettiness and that kind of thing, but like, it happens. People are human and they make instinctual choices and might not even realize they're doing it. That has absolutely zero to do with you and everything to do with them. And so to go home and feel like crap after an audition because you didn't get something because you don't know the reason you're cast, everything I've listed today is a reason that might have affected your casting, that had absolutely nothing to do with your read or with your singing. So it's just something to think about. Things that casting directors are looking for from our side of the table, what directors are looking for from our side of the table in the actors that we want to work with. These are a bunch of those. So if you can work on the ones that you can affect and breathe and let go of the ones that you can't, I know, easier said than done, then you will be much better off in the long run. I hope this was helpful. Please stick around for more theater advice and musical theater choreography. I'd love to have you as part of my community. And if you're interested in some coping techniques to help deal with nerves before auditions and shows, please check out this video here. Thanks.